haven't really gotten to spend and to really develop the hermitage, but that's the plan. It's
yeah.
Someday if the Dhamma takes us that way.
Yes. I was looking for if there's a website for Ayya Monastery, then can read for some information, but I cannot find it. Yeah.
There isn't the website is being built by a very friendly person, but right now it's not. I think it's like within a week or two, but it's going to be in Spanish.
I see. Not in English, huh?
Not all of it in English. I'm going to translate some of it. It's worked backward because Theravada Cuba is in English, and it should have, English for the support, seeking the support. But Baba Nirodha was going to be in English, and it turned out to be in Spanish. So we work with these things.
Good to know. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. So this is the retreat on 20th of September, no?
Yes.
In San Francisco Bay. It's Ayya Marajina Theri.
I will be getting there September 18.
Yeah. Ayya is coming to Dhammadharini?
Yes.
Right. Most welcome. Glad to hear that. Thanks for Ayya spending time with us. So at the end of the announcement, then we will give a brief introduction to Ayya for those new here. So this afternoon we have Ayya Marajina Theri Bhikkhuni with us, and we feel deeply grateful and honored for having Ayya spending your precious time with us for this Sutta study session. So Ayya Marajina Theri Bhikkhuni has received her higher ordination at Aranya Bodhi Hermitage in California in 2012 with Ayya Tataloka Mahatheri as a Pawatini Upajjhaya. That means a female preceptor, and a dual ordination preceded by Venerable Sila Vimala Mahathero as Kamawacharya from American Buddhist Seminary in Sacramento. We also get to know that since Ayya Marajina has ordained, she has spent the past 12 years studying the mind through the Tipitaka. For meditation practice, Ayya focuses on mindfulness and loving kindness practices. There's the meditation as according to Satipatthana, and also she teaches Brahma Vihara Bhavana. For Dhamma sharing, Ayya teach in both Spanish and English. And now Ayya divides her time between Cuba, Florida, and teaching online with a global Spanish speaking Dhamma community. So this afternoon, Ayya is going to share with us this particular sutta from Samyutta Nikaya, 42.8 in the Gamanivaga. The name of sutta is Saṅkhadhama Sutta, a hornblower, a translation from Bhikkhu Sujato. Ayya, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ayya. So I think we can do about 10 minutes, just quiet sitting, getting our mind and body together, and preparing to listen to the Dhamma. So let's become very comfortable with a back straightened. And you may close your eyes, or you may leave them halfway closed and just looking down at the floor before your feet. any position is okay. Since the meditations I teach are not discipline on the body, but you want to be sure, you want to be aware of the body, and of course, aware of where the mind is. So let's just relax and breathe in deeply a few times. Just inhale and exhale deeply a few times. Get the stale air out of your system. Bring in some fresh air. And then we'll just sit quietly until 4:12. And I will sit with you. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. So hello, everybody. It's nice to see some of you again. Some of you I don't know. Maybe I'll get to meet you on September 20. Can you all hear me? Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
Ayya.
Thank you. So we're going to discuss the Saṅkhadhama Sutta, the horn blower, or also known as the conch blower. But before we get into that, two things. I wanted to mention what the Buddha said about our practice. And I mentioned this briefly this morning. It's from the Kitajiri Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 70. In there, he says, I do not say that final knowledge is achieved all at once. On the contrary, final knowledge is achieved by gradual training, by gradual practice, by gradual progress. And I wanted to open with that because so often I see sincere students who want to begin at the end, who want to get to a goal. And I think it's good to focus on the actual path. And then usually I'm presented with the Bahia Sutta, who Bahia in the Sutta achieves arhatship with one teaching while the Buddha's on alms rounds. And he had just come from another country or another area of ancient India at the time and was all ready for a teaching and, you know. But that's just what we see in that sutta. In the commentary, there's a more complete story of Bahia, who was actually must have had very good merit because he was present in the two Buddhas preceding. Well, I don't know, Kassapa was preceding, but I don't know Padumuttara is when it was that Buddha's time. But he had he had been inspired by the Buddha's Padumuttara. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Naming the bhikkhu who had awakened quickest. And so that inspired him. And toward the end of the Kassapa Buddha's sasana, he went up to a mountaintop with 6 other bhikkhus. He was a bhikkhu at the time. And they promised themselves that they would not leave that mountaintop until they either died or they attained complete awakening. Well, one did attain arhat, not Bahia. One attained to anagami, not Bahia. And the other 5 perished on the mountaintop. So this was already, I mean, there's like a really long amount of time between Buddhas. And so this practice had been ongoing for a long time. It wasn't just, you know, that listening to the Dhamma from the Buddha and wham, and, you know, wake up. But one more thing, that though Bahia had the merit to have a human life with at least those three Buddhas, he didn't have the merit for the Ehi Bhikkhu ordination. You know, the Buddha sent him to find a robe and a bowl, in which, you know, on that search, he was gored by a cow. But this is to highlight, you know, that it is a gradual training, that there isn't a sudden awakening. Everything arises from a cause, and not just one cause, many causes, many conditions come into play. So with that in mind, I want to start with the Saṅkhadhama Sutta, and bear with me, I'm not a Zoom expert. I'm going to try to share my screen. No, I don't have a share screen in my host tools.
Moment, please, Ayya. Let me check.
Hi, as a co-host, you should be able to see it. Do you see a green box at the bottom? It could also be under more with the 3 dots.
More. It's not in more. I see a green box that says share. Okay,
Yeah, that's it.
that's it. Okay. So a hornblower, the Saṅkhadhama Sutta. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Nalanda in Pavarka's mango grove. Then Asibandaka's son, the chief, who was disciple of the Jains, went up to the Buddha and sat down to one side. The Buddha said to him, "Chief, how does the Jain ascetic of the Jnatika clan teach his disciples?" "Sir, this is how the Jain Jnatika teaches his disciples. Everyone who kills a living creature, steals, commits sexual misconduct, or lies, goes to a place of loss, to hell. You're led on by what you usually live by. This is how the Jain Jnataka teaches his disciples." So there's no determining here, you know, how often or with what intention or the gravity of the conditions. It's just do this, this happens. It's a very straight line between the breaking of a precept and hell. There's like no in between. And the Buddha replies, "You're led on by what you usually live by." Well, if this were true, then according to what the Jain Jnataka says, no one would go to a place of loss, to hell. What do you think, Chief? Take a person who kills living creatures. If we compare periods of time during the day and night, which is more frequent, the occasion when they're killing or when they're not killing? The occasions when they're killing are less frequent, while the occasions when they're not killing are more frequent. You're led on by what you usually live by. If this were true, then according to what the Jain ascetic of the Jnatika clan says, no one would go to a place of loss, to hell. Because with that explanation, with that teaching, if you kill once or you lie once, but the remaining 23 hours and 30 minutes of the day, the remaining 6 days of the week, the remaining 29 days of the month, and the remaining 364 days of the year, you're not breaking a precept. It wouldn't matter. There's no negotiating that. And we can, one of the reasons that I wanted to present this sutta is not just because, you know, it's very valuable. It has been very valuable as a practice for myself, but because what I see in our world today is a lot of beating oneself up, a lot of anxiety bordering on mental illness. And this sutta is not just for the Jains of the time. It's sort of an example of well-spoken is the Dhamma by the Blessed One, visible here and now, timeless, inviting one to come see, leading onward, to be experienced by the wise, each one for oneself. This is an example of that, because this is still occurring. This wasn't just, you know, a story, a history of that time. You know, still we hear in certain beliefs, we hear, you know, hellfire and brimstone. And this is what they were teaching at the time also. But this is what the Buddha says. What do you think, Chief? Take a person who steals, take a person who commits sexual misconduct, take a person who lies. If we compare periods of time during the day and the night, which is more frequent, the occasions when they're lying or stealing or committing sexual misconduct, or when they're not doing such a thing. The occasions when they're lying are less frequent, while the occasions when they're not lying are more frequent. You're led on by what you usually live by. If this were true, then according to what the Jain Jnatika says, no one would go to a place of loss, to hell. Take some teacher who has this doctrine now. Everyone who kills a living creature, steals, commits sexual misconduct, or lies goes to a place of loss, to hell. And there's a disciple who is devoted to that teacher. This really spoke to me when I first read that. There is a person who is really devoted to that teacher and hears that. What a crush. What a blow that if he or she, they were really listening, as we invite you to listen to a Dhamma talk, really listen, be present so that you can learn. If they were really present, then they would receive such a blow, so hard to recover from. There's a disciple who is devoted to that teacher. They think, my teacher has this doctrine in view. Everyone who kills a living creature, steals, commits sexual misconduct, or lies goes to a place of loss, to hell. But I've killed living creatures. I've stolen. I've committed sexual misconduct or lied. They get the view. What the view is like, the idea, the belief. I too am going to a place of loss, to hell. Unless they give up that speech and that thought and let go of that view, they will be cast down to hell. So this is what we believe, what we truly invest our thoughts and our speech to. If we believe that something that we have done, even with a minor attention. Even out of irritation at the time, we have lied. Listening to a doctrine like this will cause so much remorse, so much regret, so much negativity, that it's that remorse, that regret, that negativity, which will cast somebody down to hell or to the lower realms, to the spirit realm, to the animal realm. It's not the act itself. Now, this is not saying that all acts, because there's 5 heinous crimes, right? Killing of one's mother, killing of one's father, killing an arahant, maliciously wounding a Buddha, and causing a schism in the Sangha. So those are said to be hellbound. And there's some debate, which is a tangent for another day, whether that's immediate or that's, at a future existence. But so there are, I'm not saying that they're not. Now, let's recall Angulimala and his 999 victims. So, having not committed any of those heinous crimes, he attained to Arhat. King Ajatasattu, killing one person who was his father, King Bimbisara, a Sotapanna, a supporter of the Buddha. He couldn't even attain to stream entry. And from what we read in the scriptures, that he was cast down to hell. So unless they give up that speech and that thought and let go of that view, they'll be cast down to hell. But consider, when a realized one arises in the world, perfected, a fully awakened Buddha, accomplished in knowledge and conduct, holy, knower of the worlds, supreme guide for those who wish to train, teacher of gods and humans, awakened and blessed. In many ways, he criticizes and denounces killing living creatures, saying, stop killing living creatures. He criticizes and denounces stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, saying, stop lying. And there's a disciple who is devoted to that teacher. Then they reflect. In many ways, the Buddha criticizes and denounces killing living creatures, saying, stop killing living creatures. But I have killed living creatures to a certain extent. That's not right. It's not good. And I feel remorseful because of it. But I can't undo what I have done. So this is not just sweeping it under the rug, ignoring it, suppressing it, blaming a situation or a person or something that happened to you in the past. This is reflecting on it with honesty and sincerity that we've all done this. And in some places, it's so commonplace to take something from the workplace or to tell these little, these little white lies, we call them the white lies, they're not too bad. So we have these excuses which prevent us from really opening to our actions. And so the Buddha is saying, well, this disciple is devoted to this teacher and reflects, I've done this. And that should stir your heart. It should move you because you have done this. And you can't undo what we've done. What's done is done. The past is past. But reflecting like this, they give up killing living creatures. And in the future, they don't kill living creatures. That's how to give up this bad deed and get past it. In many ways, the Buddha criticizes and denounces stealing. In many ways, the Buddha criticizes and denounces sexual misconduct. In many ways, the Buddha criticizes and denounces lying. Stop lying. but I have lied to a certain extent. That's not right. It's not good. And I feel remorseful because of it. But I can't undo what I have done. Reflecting like this, they give up lying. And in the future, they refrain from lying. That's how to give it up, this bad deed, and get past it. They give up killing living creatures. They give up stealing. They give up sexual misconduct. They give up lying. They give up divisive speech. They give up harsh speech. They give up talking nonsense. Yakety, 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 yakety. They give up covetousness. They give up ill will and malevolence. They give up wrong view and have right view. That noble disciple is rid of desire, rid of ill will, unconfused, aware, and mindful. They meditate, spreading a heart full of love to one direction, and to the second, and to the third, and to the fourth. In the same way, above, below, across, everywhere, all around, they spread a heart full of love to the whole world, abundant, expansive, limitless, free of enmity and ill will. Now, there's a comment that I would like to share with you. It's not something that I've read, and please forgive me in advance if this is incorrect. But there's certain things here. Now, there's the or actually 4 precepts, and then there's right speech. But then it says, give up covetousness, give up ill will and malevolence, give up wrong view. Now, some of these are hindrances. Ill will and malevolence is a hindrance. And that can be suppressed with this practice, which we're about to get into. The hindrances are suppressed, all 5 of them. That's desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness, and remorse. Remorse is big here. And doubt. So these are suppressed, but they're not eliminated. But here, the Buddha is saying they give up covetousness, which is a mental factor, which is, I've heard different views. I'll share both views. The Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw says it's eliminated at Sotapanna. And there's other bhikkhus whom I greatly respect, as I respect the Mahasi Sayadaw, that says it's not eliminated at Sotapanna. But wrong view is eliminated at Sotapanna. So we have varying hindrances and fetters working here. And this is why I started with, it's a gradual practice, it's a gradual training, it's gradual progress, because you can give up those, you can follow the 4 precepts, you can follow right speech, and you can intend to give up ill will, which is eliminated at Anagami. You can intend to give up covetousness wherever that is eliminated. You can intend to just have right view. Right view initially is cause and effect. Every action has an effect. So rid of desire, rid of ill will, unconfused, aware, and mindful. This is gradual. You know, don't give up a practice because you don't, get to perfection after a week of training. Stay with it. Stay with it to get somewhere. So then he begins the teaching on metta, and Bhante Sujato uses love here, and love can be understood if we understand it as unconditional and universal. So it includes all beings. We don't pick and choose, we may start the training focused on some beings so that we can feel that energy, that warmth at the heart base, which is what we try to spread and radiate. But metta, which is the absence of hatred and ill will, which is benevolence and goodwill, is unconditional. It's for our politicians, folks. It's for our politicians. It's for whatever action a person, a being has done, they're not excluded. So the Buddha teaches one method, and I'll get into this method right now, but you've probably heard the other method of beginning with giving ourselves metta. And if we use the word love, I know that in the West, that's extremely hard for people to get through, to love themselves. So I don't usually use love. I use benevolence. I just use goodwill and benevolence. Just have goodwill toward yourself. You deserve it. Here you are. You've met the Dhamma. So whichever method you use, it's good. Either one is good. They're just methods. So, continuing, that noble disciple is rid of desire, rid of ill will, unconfused, aware, and mindful. They meditate, spreading a heart full of love to one direction, and to the second direction, and to the third, and to the fourth, in the same way, above, below, across, everywhere, all around. They spread a heart full of love to the whole world, abundant, expansive, limitless, free from enmity and ill will. Suppose there was a powerful horn blower. They'd easily make themselves heard in the four quarters. In the same way, when the heart's released by love has been developed and cultivated, see, it's gradual. We develop and we cultivate like this. Any limited deeds they've done don't remain or persist there. Now, this is revolutionary. Limited deeds, which are sense sphere deeds, with the exception of those 5 mentioned earlier. When you develop and cultivate a heart of metta, that abolishes, that overtakes the karma of those negative deeds, so that killing 999 people. And then we know that Angulimala did develop, these Brahma Viharas with the Buddha's help, because he had a lot of remorse. Imagine trying to sit and meditate when you've killed 999 people, and you can see all those faces pleading mercy, begging for their lives. And that's torment. That's hellish right there. But he developed these other qualities and was able to gain arahant, not without any sort of, repercussions for his evil deeds. He did have his bowl broken quite a bit. He would return to the monastery bloodied, without any alms for the day. No telling how many times. So it's not that we are, free of all effects of our evil deeds, but the worst effects, the ones that would take us down to hell or to the animal realms. Have you looked up? You look up in the night sky and you see hundreds of thousands of tiny little flying insects, or when the termites swarm, it's like millions. They're all over. They're like, you can't step anywhere without crushing a whole foot full of tiny little beings. These are beings. They were humans once. We were these beings once. It's an indiscernible beginning. So we have no idea, even if we can say, well, in this existence, I haven't killed any living creatures except for the cockroach, but they deserved it, you know? Even if not in this existence, we don't know when the conditions will meet that at the moment of our passing from this existence, something will arise that will take us down. And then taking us down, remember that the Buddha said, it's a long, long time, long, long time. We don't want to go there. Then that noble disciple, rid of desire, rid of ill will. So rid of desire, rid of ill will. Let's just assume here for our sake, this is suppressing the hindrances, getting close to concentration, or like Bhante Sujato says, immersion or unification of mind. Unconfused, aware, and mindful. This is where samadhi begins. Unconfused, aware, and mindful. So here, even non-sotapannas, non-Aryan, can reach this level of practice, bhavana, with practice. They meditate spreading a heart full of compassion, the second Brahma Vihara. And this is the wish that no being suffer. You know, none. Just like with metta, we spread it regardless to all beings, because if there's one exception, it's not metta. If it's one exception, it's not compassion. So the Brahma Viharas are whole. We can't pick and choose. They're in an entirety, and it's a mental quality. We go through these exercises where we're bringing in, like, whether you want to or not, like Angulimala, all these faces started pouring into his awareness, all these victims pleading for their life. We may, you know, things may come up, like, you know, that mistake we made, and we lied. We know that we lied, and we've done it before, and you know what a tangled web we weave. But it's the mental quality of metta and karuna and mudita and upekkha, which is inner world, not outer world. It's inner heart base. So that even if that one little remorseful action done arises, then it's not metta, it's not karuna. Which is why I think that method, excuse me, which is why I think that method of metta for oneself, metta for someone we hold dear, metta for someone who's kind of neutral, that we don't have any real relationship with, and metta for someone who we don't like. I think that's why that method, so that you can practice with all these visions and images coming up as they come up. But the Buddha, as you see, just says, just radiate that, spread that boundlessly to the four quarters, in between the four quarters, above, below, everywhere, all around. So it's the same, it's a different method, it's a different way to arrive at the same mental quality. They meditate spreading a heart full of rejoicing, that's mudita. They meditate spreading a heart full of equanimity to one direction, to the second, and to the third, and to the fourth. In the same way, above, below, across, everywhere, all around, they spread a heart full of equanimity to the whole world, abundant, expansive, limitless, free of enmity and ill will. Suppose there was a powerful horn blower. They'd easily make themselves heard in the four quarters. In the same way, when the heart's released by equanimity, or metta or karuna or mudita has been developed and cultivated like this. Any limited deeds they've done don't remain or persist there. When he said this, Asibandaka's son, the chief, said to the Buddha, "Excellent, sir, excellent. From this day forth, may the Buddha remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge, for life." So there's the most important point here is that this isn't, I don't know why I have my hands up. Zoom is a mystery for me. One of the more important lessons that we take away from this is that this is not a story about the Jains necessarily. This is a story about us. And if it's not, doesn't reach your heart at the moment because you say, well, I don't kill, I haven't committed any sexual misconduct, I don't steal, and there was just that tiny little white lie. I said, well, first of all, really look deeply, really delve into your actions, your thoughts, your verbal actions also. And then realize it may not be this existence because we've all done everything already. From an indiscernible beginning, we've been wandering on, hindered by ignorance, fettered by craving. And this is your teaching. This is for you. This is for us. Regardless of what we have done, minus those 5, there is, in this existence, minus those 5 in this existence, there is still the possibility of attaining the full goal of the holy life or the lay life, because there's no higher goal for a human being than to awaken. And so I want to go back to the Bahia Sutta and just, and I want to end with the very beautiful ending when the Buddha gives this verse where neither water nor earth nor fire nor air gain a foothold. There gleam no stars, no sun sheds light, yet there shines no moon, yet there no darkness reigns. When a sage, an arahant, has come to know this for themselves through their own wisdom, then they are freed from form and formless, freed from pleasure and from pain. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Well, I finished in time. And we can have some discussions, questions. I hear an airplane or something. Please, if you have anything to share, please unmute the voice and share or ask a question. And I may know the answer, I may not.
So anyone have any question here in regards to the Sutta? Can raise your question or any comment on that?
I have a question, Chintan here. I'm wondering, you said there were 2 ways to use loving kindness, or that, I don't want to call it a prayer. Way was somebody that you love, somebody that's neutral, somebody that you don't like. And the other one is which one? And I could be conflating 2 ideas.
The Buddha taught in this sutta, the Buddha taught just spreading without going through the categories. For this sort of spreading metta, you have to raise it first. You have to, I use visualizations, but it's easy, you know, because I love frogs and lizards. I live in the country. I'm constantly seeing them, and they just raise that metta and mudita. So, and that's what, and then when I feel it, then I share that.
I understand very well. That's how Ayya Sobana teaches. So thank you.
Ananea.
Thank you, Ayya. Yeah, I started out learning the Mahasi method years ago, and that actually was very helpful to me at the time. But over the years, and listening to some of Bhikkhu Analayo's, you know, his talks and his books about early, you know, the origins of Theravada Buddhism. And he explained that he was a person that did not relate to that individual, you know, going to the specific persons, that the emanation was something that felt right to him and was easeful. So anyway, so that's where mine turned to at a point, was that becoming the expansive, you know, a lot, experiencing the feeling yourself, and then, you know, having it expand. And I really appreciate that at this point. As Chintana pointed out, Ayya Sobana also follows the emanation type of a principle. And it's one way for me, who is I refer to myself as a recovering type A person. I had so many perfection issues, and, you know, messages and how to be and how to do that. I credit metta practice with really making a huge major shift away from that type of thinking. It isn't that it doesn't kind of try to raise its ugly head periodically, but I'm very aware of it in it. And especially in these times, metta is the only thing that helps me keep my sanity and from going down the rabbit hole of what we're experiencing in the US currently. So anyway, but I so appreciate this was very nicely, clearly stated. And it's nice to see you again, Pradamath.
Yeah, you know, what brought me to metta was fear. And that's not something that we read. At least I've never read about it. But, you know, the realization that anger only leads to more anger. And we can see where anger leads, you know, right now. We can see it. And that's a tremendous fear arose, and in realizing there's no other way but love, and that it's not giving, it's not conceding anything to the evil being done. It's very restorative. Actually, there's a PhD student in Cuba at the University of Havana, and he's kind of like curious about Buddhism. And he approached me. He wanted to write his PhD on restorative justice. And he wanted to know what the Buddha said about it. And, you know, I wrote an essay on this sutta. This is our restorative healing. This is our restorative justice. And it's, you know, anybody can practice it. It's not like our secret. You know, what a wonderful world if we all practice this, you know, letting go of that resentment or anger and fear, and just like wishing all beings well. What a wonderful world if all beings were well. I mean, truly well. It makes such a huge difference. And it's not an easy practice for some people, but it's so worthwhile. And it's so doable, little by little, gradual practice. Any other questions, comments, ideas? We're early. Yes, Richard.
Thank you, Ayya. This sutta is pointing out that karma, I'm using that word so it's clear, as opposed to kama with one M and kama with two M's.
Richard, could you
It's
speak a
not-
little bit louder? I'm having a hard time hearing. Thank you.
I'm going to use the Sanskrit term karma because I think people recognize it easily, so that two Pali words, which are similar, don't get mixed up. So karma is not something that builds up and you carry around with you. Karma is your state of mind right now at this moment. And that's why you can free yourself and attain nibbana. As Buddha points out in this sutta, that if you were bound by these things, there's no way to get out. You'd just be continuously taking another birth, having more problems, accumulating more stuff over and over and over and over again. But because it's your state of mind, you can free your state of mind, change it, and that at any time, and that allows you to either start moving towards nibbana or attaining nibbana. So there's also a sutta in book 4 of the Samyutta Nikaya, section 36, sutta number 4. Bhikkhu Bodhi translated as the bottomless abyss. It's 3 paragraphs and then a poem. So Buddha says, Bhikkhu, when the unobstructed worldling makes the statement, in the great ocean there is a bottomless abyss, he makes such a statement about something that is non-existent and unreal. The bhikkhu is rather designating a designation for painful bodily feeling. That is bottomless abyss, quote, bottomless abyss. So I know there's a number of suttas where it goes into detail about all these horrible hells and all these things you're going to experience. But Buddha is saying right here, because these are the same words that are used to describe those hells, that there's no such thing. So these descriptions of hells are just something that was imported later due to the contact probably with the Greeks and others who had started to develop these type of ideas from that side. He says, when the unobstructed worldling is contacted by a painful bodily feeling, he sorrows, grieves, and laments. He weeps, beats his breast, and becomes distraught. This is called an unobstructed worldling who has not risen up in the bottomless abyss, who has not gained a foothold. In other words, because he's attached and he's suffering for various reasons, he's not able to climb out of this abyss. There's no place for him to gain a foothold and get out. It says, but bhikkhus, when the instructed noble disciple is contacted by a painful bodily feeling, he does not sorrow, grieve, or lament. He does not weep and beat his breast and become distraught. This is called an instructed noble disciple who has risen up in the bottomless abyss, who has gained a foothold. In other words, he now knows how to set his mind correctly, or she, doesn't matter, they, and they're beginning to, climb out of this abyss, okay? To get out of this tendency to torture themselves by their state of mind due to their attachment to various things as real or themselves, etc., like that. So anyways, I'm just saying that the sutta that you were reading confirms that same idea. That's why it's by a change of mind, Buddha is saying, that you can leave those negative things behind. And now you adopt a good state of mind with good sila, good habit, so that your mind doesn't return to those things. And then you utilize that to purify yourself more and more, eventually to attain nibbana. Anyways, that's my point of view. Thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you for sharing your point of view, Richard. It's not so easy to let go of habitual thinking. It kind of reminds me of when Ananda told the Buddha, oh, dependent origination is just as clear can be. And the Buddha said, don't say that, Ananda. Don't say that. It's very subtle. It's so subtle that beings have wandered on from an indiscernible beginning. And so it's, again, gradually we can train our perception. That old example of if you live in the country like I do, there's many opportunities to see a twig or branch, a rope on the ground and think it's a snake. There's so many opportunities for that. And so because of so many opportunities, it's possible to see it now. And then the mind slows it down, these moment to moment to moment, slows this down so that it goes through that whole, is it a rope, is it a snake, in an instant. And most of the time it's not a snake. Sometimes it is. But this is how we train perception. And going back to metta, there's one instance that I've used successfully when there's beings that are not dear and agreeable to me. And I've said this story a lot, but it's a story of success. When I was a child, I was paralyzed with fear over cockroaches. Paralyzed. I couldn't move. I'd see a cockroach on the wall and I could stay there for hours until my mother came looking for me. And so I'm 61 now. And this was one of the beings that I used for that not friendly person. I used the cockroach. And I'm very happy to report to everyone here that there's just one kind of cockroach now that I still have an issue with, but I can carry all sorts of cockroaches. I can be in the same room with all sorts of cockroaches, except now I still feel some disgust toward the ones that fly, the flying ones. And there's a lot of those in Cuba, so I get a lot of exposure to this, a lot of practice for this, for which I'm grateful, because they're beings. And one thing that comes to mind when I see them is what sort of action was committed for this existence. And so compassion arises. So we can use both methods. And we come into like a stumbling block. If we think like what's going on in Gaza, and like, no way, no metta there for what they're doing, you can just think about what they're doing, how horrendous that is, the amount of suffering they're causing. And compassion should be able to arise with that thought. Are there any other questions?
Oh yeah. The flying cockroach, is that the pregnant female cockroach?
Huh?
The flying cockroach, is that the female pregnant cockroach that flying?
It's a real cockroach.
No, it say that the flying cockroach is pregnant. It's a female cockroach. That's why they fly.
Oh, I didn't know that. So, we don't use pesticides or insecticides or poisons of any kind here in this Hermitage. And so they come in here, they come into the Dhammasala, and I scoot them out when I can. The other day I saw one flying in, we were having a Dhamma discussion and something flew in through the door. And I didn't know what it was until it landed. But flying, it was not I wasn't even concerned until it landed and I saw what it was. So this is our conditioning.
Yeah.
Now, when
Yeah,
I don't, well,
I have a question about the sutta. So
okay.
there's a part that saying, in the same way, when the heart released by equanimity has been developed and cultivated like this, any limited deeds they have done don't remain or persist there. Could Ayya elaborate on this line? Any limited deeds they have done don't remain or persist there.
Well, the limited deeds, as I've understood it, is the deeds that we do in this sense sphere, the breaking of the precepts that we do in this sense sphere, which would carry over as as it becomes a habit. At the moment of death, of passing from one existence to the other, then either a very significant comma that arises in that moment determines the following existence, or the habitual state of mind follows. So here, this is my understanding. It's not something that I've read in the suttas. This is like the example of how using metta as your vehicle, as your practice, it becomes your habitual state of mind. So regardless of what has been done, including, like I've mentioned, Angulimala, or any of us that have given to a time of theft, a time of lying, a time of taking someone else's spouse, or someone engaged to somebody else, or someone who's not legally can consent or not available in some way. If we do this habitually, that will be the habitual state of mind that arises in that very critical moment. It almost seems unjust that the moment of death is so critical for determining our next existence. So we can't do anything about what's already done. But if we cultivate that state of mind of metta, or karuna, or mudita, or upekkha, and I think upekkha is a little bit more advanced, but one of those first three, this is our vehicle. And so these things, don't arise. They're like distant, that I think it's in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta that the Buddha is meditating and Mara sends all the armies, his armies, and they're shooting arrows. And as I see it, those arrows, this anger, this hatred, this greed, this delusion coming toward you. With a mind of metta, those arrows become flowers and fall to the ground. So they don't penetrate, they don't touch. And this becomes the habitual state of mind, our custom. So those deeds, they don't apply. It's a very beautiful thing. Everybody that needs forgiveness, read and practice the sutta. This is awesome.
I have another question for you, Ayya. So they are people that come to us, like, okay, when we talk about how to counter the anger with metta, but then it seems like it will be difficult to certain people when there's a burning feeling, there's so much anger. How to practice metta?
That's a good question. And I can answer that from experience.
Yeah, please, Ayya.
You just practice. You just, a little bit. If you can do a little bit, you do a little bit. And you feel how that anger feels, how you experience that anger. That I think it's the Buddha that said, anger is like holding on to a red hot coal to throw it. Who's hurt first? Who is hurt, injured first? We are. We're injured first with anger. And hatred is just anger that has taken up residence in your heart. Hatred is just like it's non-distinct. It's like equal opportunity. It's just, a moment of irritation and anger and hatred. And you see this in the road rage incidents where somebody takes a gun out because they were cut off, or, they don't like the color of the car, they don't like the way the drivers. This is hatred that resides in the heart. So at that point, it's very critical that we recognize that we're damaging our heart base. I mean, and I think literally we're causing damage to our heart, the organ heart, carrying this hatred. And so we have to get some idea of what it's doing to us, and not even think about other people at the moment. But little by little, when we sit down, if we can't even meditate, if we can't even oh my God, love, don't call it love. Call it the absence of hatred. Call it the absence of ill will. And when this irritation arises, see if you can start tracing it back. Where did that irritation come from? Because everything comes from contact. So we have contact. Maybe we heard a song that reminded us of a situation that made us angry, and here comes anger again. We're reliving a dead past. We're bringing it back to the present again. And so somebody who's very, very angry, and I'm speaking from experience, but I also have a student who I've been working with, and I'm so happy for him. Every time he reports to me, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for him either. Sound would just get him crazy, and anger would just erupt. But just little by little, you have to form an idea of how you're hurting yourself. And from there, progress. Read Bhante Ji has a really nice, I think, metta in plain English. It's very accessible to the Western students. And that's something that's very recommended. And, and it would take years. A deep-seated hatred, deep-seated anger takes years, perhaps, to tame, but possible.
Thank you, Ayya, for your sharing. So, in person here, do you have any question that would like to ask? Yeah. Okay. So, here, if we do not have any more questions, let me do one announcement here. So after today, the Sunday, on next Tuesday, there's another classes on Dhamma Talk. On 2nd of September, there's evening, 7 to 8:30. So we have a special guest, Ayya Marajina Theri, would give a Dhamma talk and also a short guided meditation on the reflection on how meditation leads to wisdom in the threefold training, how the samadhi will lead to panya. So if anyone interested, so please join online. I'll be the same, the host for next Tuesday before we going back to Hermitage, back to our Vasa boundary within the limit of 7 days. Yeah. Ayya Marajina, I'm looking forward to meet you in person for the really long retreat.
Likewise.
Yeah. And we appreciate so much. Yes, please, Ayya.
Before we leave, let's dedicate our merit. Let's dedicate
sure.
the merit that we have created here. Ananaya, did you have an extra question? Another question?
Well, it's kind of an ongoing thing that
Yeah.
anger over, when I personally worked with it for, aversion in its various forms. But there's this lingering irritation. And so, especially with driving, there's many, many triggers with driving for me, which are much better than they used to be. But so when I have been examining, of course, when irritation comes up, what's the base of that? And one thing that seems clear for me at least is that it's out of this expectation that something should be different. Like the world should be a different way. All drivers should take driver's education. Stuff like that. That source of irritation can be just like overwhelming or really crazy making if it's, well, anyway, it leads to a lot of distress. So that's the way I'm working with it. And I don't know if you have any other things to share, but this irritation thing is like my remaining kind of the remnant still of those underlying things that causes that were much deeper and more difficult. But this one equally messes with the mind. I mean, it's not great to be, so I'm less irritated, but it's still an ongoing sort of a situation.
That's a great example and an excellent practice that you're, that you're cultivating. Because aversion doesn't really eradicate till anagami. So
Oh, okay.
some things we just endure.
Mhm.
Some things we just develop patience and we endure and know that if we proceed in this way, we look back and we see the difference that we approach the same things we approached 10, 20 years ago in such a different way.
Yeah.
So that should be a cause for joy that there is
Yes,
progress.
that is.
That means he's making progress.
Yeah.
Because my
Yeah.
less
Okay.
agitated now.
So let's dedicate our merit.
Sure.
And gratitude for all of you for sharing this time, for sharing in the Dhamma and learning and growing and committing to your practice in the Dhamma. You make the world a better place just by cultivating wholesome qualities. And so let's dedicate our merit to all the beings who are suffering right now, whether they be human or animal or devas or any beings anywhere. We don't diminish our merit by sharing it. On the contrary, I believe it grows. Akasata chabumata devanaga mahidika punyang tang anumoditva chirang rakantu lokasasanang chirang rakantu desanang chirang rakantu mangparang. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ayya.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Ayya, so much.
Thank you.
At the end, we will also give a little time for Paula to make some announcement that she need to make. Yeah.
Hello.
Please.
So I'm going to share my screen and make a few announcements. Okay. So, oh, wait a second. I started at the wrong spot. Sharing screens can always be a hard thing. So one moment, just bear with me and I will start again. Let's see. Here we go. All right, starting again. Okay. So we have some upcoming events. The International Bhikkhuni Day is coming up in September, and there will be more information on the Dhammadrini website as we have more special programs. And also very special coming up on Saturday, September 20th, we have our in-person day-long retreat with Ayya Marajina and the Bhikkhunis from Dhammadrini. So this is happening in Foster City, California, and you can register online at Dhammadrini. And there will also be more information coming out in our newsletters as well about this. So very excited for this coming up. And please go ahead and share with anyone you know that might be interested as well. And we also have Katina coming up on Saturday, October 18th. It will be out at Aranya Bodhi this year. And so there will be more information to register for that as well.
God.
And volunteer opportunities. So there's always opportunities to volunteer, similar to what I'm doing now. I'm not close by, but I'm able to volunteer from far away. There are positions on committees, on the board, and also one-time volunteering or in-person volunteering. There's more information on that at damadrini.com as well. And these teachings are offered as freely offered, but please support the Sangha. There are many opportunities to do that. There's a QR code and also more information on the website as well. So thank you everyone for your practice, and thank you so much, Venerables, for your teachings. That's all I have.
Thanks, Paula.
Paula, real quick, you said damadrini.com, and I know you meant .net. So can
Correct.
you? Okay.
Thank you. I meant .net. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Chintana, Richard, Ananya, Daniel, Praise. Yeah, thanks, everyone. Especially Ayya Marajina. Looking forward to see you again. Take care,
Okay,
yeah.
Bye-bye.
bye.